the Stanchurian candidate. I do not care about the election at all. This is where it's at. In this episode, Stan's kind of bored with his life, unhappy, miserable, so he decides to run for mayor since the mayor of Gravity Falls, which we've never seen up until now, has unfortunately passed, at least I think so, has unfortunately passed away, and there needs to be a new mayor, and in Gravity Falls, anyone can run for mayor, you don't need any political experience. So Grunkle Stan decides to run because he wants to make something himself. But also running is Gideon's dad, I don't remember his name, but he's running too, so... And there's a bunch. There's like one other guy running, but ultimately it's those two are the big ones. And the problem is Stan's not exactly a nice guy. He says a bunch of inappropriate stuff. So Ford gives Dipper a tie that allows him to control Stan's thoughts and what he says. So they use him, and he does pretty well. And then, like, we learn that the Gideon's daddy's actually not running for mayor because he wants to, but because. So that way he can become mayor and give Gideon a pardon and get him out of jail. And Gideon uses this page from the journal that ripped out, which, cleverly enough, we do see a ripped page out of the journal when Ford's flipping through it. So that was a clever way to set up anyway. So Gideon controls his father's mind, uses it to run in the election and do good, and also deal with the Pines twins. But ultimately Stan wins because he saves the twin Dipper and Mabel from Gideon. But Stan doesn't win because of all the crimes he's committed, some of which we've actually heard about in the show, which I thought was a clever way to bring it back. And Gideon gets mad, and he's like, decides to give Bill Cipher a call. And yeah, this is a really good episode. I mean, I'm kind of impressed with the show that, first off, the fact that it's consistently making really good episodes, but at the same time, the fact that it was able to give us an episode that was just the silly that we were sort of able to go back to the silly nonsense the show's known for. While also, you know, kind of inching the story forward a bit. And also we were able to have some heartfelt stuff with Stan trying to make something himself, and also the humor in the election. And there was, I mean, they didn't do as much of as I would have liked, but I do like sort of the show, them making fun of politics, how you just say what you want to hear. And in some cases, I think Stan is actually the best politician because he's being completely honest. Because this is sort of like Gaming Wildlife, where politicians are completely honest with us. Like, politicians in reality, like, some, not all, but most of the time they really aren't that nice guys and stuff. They just tell you what you want to hear. They try to make you feel good so you'll vote for them. Like, it's a popularity contest, not... I'm actually going to do this stuff. Like, even now, like, look at our candidates. They're just not that good. I mean, we're just, like, picking the one that looks the best. So I thought there was a good idea of that. I feel they could have gone a bit farther. I mean, especially the news. Like, the news is like, finally, there's something to report, which is a joke on how there's not usually a lot of news. They make something out of nothing. But, I mean, the stuff they did was fine. And I also like the mind control tie. I thought that was clever, but I don't feel like they kind of took it as much advantage of that as that. I mean, I think of, like, how much they did when Dipper cloned himself or the Shrinking Ray. They really didn't do that much with the mind control tie. Like, I felt like there was, especially when they put it on Seuss at the end, I thought that could have been funny and led to a lot of stuff. But, again, they just really didn't go for that. They just had Stan go off and rescue them. See, there was a lot of fun, good ideas, but but nothing really got fleshed out the way it did. I mean, even with the intro, I'm pretty sure they shortened the intro for this episode, and I'm thankful for it, because, yeah, you needed more time for this episode, but I ultimately feel like even then, like, I felt like Hirsch wished he had a couple more minutes to do what he needed to do. But, yeah, and there was even, like, the moral dilemma of should they control Stan or let him be his own person? Because on one end, when they control him, he wins, but on the other end, like, they're kind of taking away his free will. And they didn't really do much with that. I like seeing Gideon return. I had a feeling he was going to show up again at some point. I mean, especially considering when I was watching Rebels on Disney XD, they kept showing ads of Gideon, like, writing letters in jail. I'm like, okay, they're clearly reminding us that he's going to come back, and he came back 2 years after the time we last saw him, since the Season 1 finale was 2 years ago. Yeah, that's kind of sad now that you think about it. But yeah, I really like how we brought him back to the story of how it's kind of an interesting thing. It's like he's in jail, so how do we get him back into the story? So having him mind control, having him be able to summon Bill Cipher in jail, all that stuff is clever. And I cannot wait to see Bill again. And the next episode is in like a couple weeks, which is nice. I was kind of worried, like, when are we going to get the next episode now? But it looks like we're going to be moving along at a good pace, which I hope they just keep the episodes consistent. And lastly, there was so much attention to detail in this episode. Like, there's all this little stuff in the background, like newspaper clippings. There was the Stan meme. Like, I need to go back and rewatch the episode because there's so much detail in the show and the animation that I just never can see everything in one go. And I didn't have my glasses with me for this episode. I need glasses when I watch TV, and I wish I hadn't lost them because there's a lot of stuff in this episode that I feel like I could have seen if I hadn't lost them. And yeah, that's all I have to say on this week's Gravity Falls. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Like, dislike, subscribe. And this is JStar360, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.